Don't do it abusively so as to break the spirit, but you do it so as to teach them, what is right from wrong, what is acceptable or what is not acceptable.
And we have to be careful here because back in our day, our parents would not say abuse. I mean, we were abused. Looking back now, however, we say however, yes?
I remember one time my father was beating me with a strap. And I lift my hand and say, praise the Lord.
All right, so...
And he stopped.
So, just a follow-up question. The Bible says if you don't use the rod, you will send the child to hellfire. Is it the rod? Is the rod the only way of disciplining the child or the most effective way of disciplining the child?
Well, I tell you, the rod can really give a sting that could wake that child up. But if that child is really rebellious and would not even take a telling, would not listen, you would need to put a sting right there on that child. But there are children who, the moment you speak to them and you show them the pros and cons, they will accept what you say, they'll turn around and do what is right.
Because as well, some children, the rod don't do it. Yes?
Yeah, the real rebellious ones.
The rod don't do it. And we don't want to just throw them in a real rebellious. They probably have just a strong will, and they're going to be used by God, and they really have to come out, So we don't want to just throw them into a rebellious whole.
And what we have to look at too is not really them, it's the devil that is inside that is trying to influence them to do wrong things. So they're not so much at fault. It's the devil who is pushing them. So we gotta also pray for them to break that curse that has been laid upon their lives and to ask God to give them a spirit of love, give them a heart of flesh, etc.
Or as well, you tend to show back some love. When you're so rebellious, I'm just going to show you the love.
Well, But what is important too is to express to the child, I love you. You are my special. You are my daughter, my son, and I want the best for you in life. Express that love to them so they know that you're coming from a point of view of love. And whatever you do to correct them is out of love.
Okay. I think what we're trying to get at here is that there are various different measures of discipline. And as every child is unique, there is a unique way of disciplining that child. As Elder Henry said, there are some children that would take a good talking to. And there are some children who need the rod. And then there are some children who need to be left alone to see the repercussions of their actions. And so it is up to us as parents to manage the process. So I think that was a good answer, good discourse between the presenter and the question. I think we have Minister McKinnon and then Sister Williams.
Yeah, I would just like to interject here, not because it says use the rod means that you have to beat them every time something happens. The whole thing is that the establishment of the rod, like there's some kids that know if they do certain things, they're going to get licks. And so the rod is already in use right there in their minds, knowing that I will not do this because if I do it, I will get licks. So the using the rod is establishing the discipline that the rod stands for in the life of the child, in the life of the individual. And so they know that this thing is hanging over them. And so it's not that you grab up the rod every minute and you beat. Discipline should always be carried out in love. And I've seen too many times that parents would take the rod to the child, and you're looking on and you want to take a rod and beat that parent because they're totally out of control and they're getting away emotionally, which is probably the same emotion that took away the child. and now you're exercising the same lack of control in disciplining your child. One of the things that is very absent to me in our society, and I've really looked at it a lot of time, and Desiree, I know you're in the field, but there is need for much more avenues of counseling for children, because children are acting out, and we're bringing the rod to them, we're disciplining them, and if you get down to the nitty-gritty, there is something that is happening behind the scene while the child is acting out. And all that we can see to do is not to spare the rod and to beat the child. And so I see the need for counseling as very, very important. When you have a child, the child is rebellious, the child is going the wrong way, or the child is different, there is need for counseling wherever it's available. Sister Desiree advertising, you talk to her, she'll be able to lead you. Sister Daphne, and we have other people in the legal field as well too. And we have the church. Bring them to the church, and let's have a chat with them and see how we can help them.
Okay, I'll come back to the counseling, but in terms of discipline and using the rod, yes, I believe in that. You use the rod sometimes. But the purpose of you disciplining a child is what? Is to bring that child to a position where the behavior is changed, right? Okay, so a lot of times you might have to talk over and over and over. Explain to the child why they're being disciplined. If you explain to the child why they're being disciplined, you do what? They start thinking, right? They start using their minds. So they're understanding, okay then, I did something wrong, And of course, I think both Elder Hollis and Minister McKenna spoke about it. You are going to discipline them with love. So it is not advised for you to discipline a child when you're extremely angry. Because when you are extremely angry, you just might abuse that child. They get you, and I mean, children get you so vexed, right? We got our parents vexed when we were children. And sometimes you really want to give them 2 good blows. But it's not advised that you do it when you're extremely angry. Take some time out, you think about it, you think about the best possible way in which to handle the situation, and you deal with it. But deal with it as quickly as possible. Don't put it off till next week, because the child will call you bluff. So if you're going to wait and say, okay, just wait till such and such a time and this and that, and then you let that week pass, and then the child does something else again, and then you probably let another week pass, and then you 2 weeks after, now you give them all the blows, and then you're whopping them, and you're saying, this is for this, the thing that you did 2 weeks ago. This is for the other one that you did last week. No. Deal with it right there. You might not be in a position to deal with it on the spot. I do not believe in embarrassing children in public. You might have to do it, but I really don't believe in embarrassing children in public. So sometimes, if your child knows you very well, you just give them the eye. And you just give them the voice. And they know later will be greater. They definitely know that later will be greater. I don't believe in parents embarrassing your children in public. To me, it's like sometimes it gives, when you're speaking to the parents, it's like they get a high because they're like, okay, I'm being an authority figure and I'm showing the world that I'm disciplining my child. No, you're actually breaking the child's spirit. Okay? So there are some things that you deal with behind closed doors. A child might embarrass you in public, yes. You're getting emotional and you're feeling ashamed. Don't allow your emotions to get out of control because you're feeling embarrassed and ashamed. And then you're going to act out and take it out on the child. Okay, people forget the embarrassment, so what? Life goes on. Okay? The most important thing is you want to bring your child to a place of character and integrity. You want to bring your child to a place where when you're not around, that child will carry on the values that you have taught to them. Not a showpiece to prove something to somebody else. Like sometimes parents like to prove things to teachers. That's a store point with me. So a teacher says, your child is so. And you killing the child with blows in front of the teacher just to satisfy the teacher. And sometimes it's not even true. And sometimes it's not even a big deal. You can speak to the child in front of the teacher and say, listen, what did you do? You know you wasn't supposed to do such and such a thing. And of course, there will be consequences to your actions. Make certain that the discipline fits the offense. And make certain the discipline is age appropriate. Okay? 2 too many cases of abuse in Antigua. There are just too many cases of abuse in Antigua because you have a lot of angry parents who are angry for one reason or another. It's not the child's fault. You're the custodian of the child. You're supposed to take care of that child. Don't take out your anger on that child. So try not to discipline your child when you're very angry, even though they might embarrass you in public. Try not to. The counseling part of it, I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Because us godly parents, we like to bind Satan bad. So, you do an interview with a child, you've done several sessions with the child, and you recognize, no. Something is definitely off here. You bring in the parent, you said, you know what? I think the child needs to see a counselor. Oh my goodness, bad word. A counselor, nothing is wrong with my child. And you're binding the devil, you're driving the devil out with the child. Because nothing is wrong, or it's Satan. Yeah, we all know Satan's behind behind basically everything. We all know that he's the father of lies. We know that he's the God of this world. We know he's nothing tall but pure evil. But sometimes they're not demon-possessed. All children who act out are not demon-possessed. And some Christian parents, and I thank God for SJPC. I thank God for SJPC and what we've been taught. Because when you're dealing with some other children that come out of other churches and their belief system, you shake your head and you really grieve because of what they've been taught. Okay? And so most naturally, they're going to tell, no, the child don't need no counseling. They're going to pray and fast, and they're going to bind Satan, and they're going to drive out every demon, and they do all that, and they bring in the child for deliverance, and the child still behaves the same way. There has been no great change. Because the child probably is just acting out for some other reason and probably just needs to see a psychologist or a therapist. And therapy is fine. Be careful who your therapist is. Because I sit in a lot of these sessions with these therapists, and believe you me, when they start and you hear them talking, no God story coming out, you know. First of all, we start in the session at 9 o'clock with meditation. And you're closing your eyes and you're emptying your minds. Hello? I ain't emptying no mind. So when they're closing their eyes and we're talking about emptying your minds, I'm there saying, Jesus, you're so wonderful, you're awesome. That's how I emptied my mind. So a lot of these therapists, and I'm sure Anne-Marie's here, and we know what I'm talking about, they don't believe in no God. So by the time you walk to their office and you see certain things around the place, you're like, no. Time for me to go. This is not the right place for me. Because what are they going to tell your child? What are they going to tell your children? Sometimes they do more harm than good. And they're going to tell you something about some universe and the stars and all these things. You know, so you have to be careful of the therapist that you choose. But sometimes the children need to be counseled. They need therapy. They need strategies to help them. And you're not equipped to deal with those things. So you employ a professional. You go to a professional. And when I say professional, I mean some of them in church. They might not have a degree, but they're counselors because they get their wisdom from whom? Amen. Almighty God. Amen. Okay? And so you can go to a counselor, and that person can assist that child rather than leaving that child, and sometimes the child gets worse, and the child ends up where? On medication or in Clearview. Because you didn't address the problem, and so it got out of control. And sometimes they bash the pastor because the pastor might suggest that you go and see a psychologist or psychiatrist because of what the manifestations that the child having. And they bash the pastor. Oh, he lacked faith. He lacked faith. He don't believe in God because you're asking them to seek professional help because all what you're doing is just not working. So I'm glad to talk about the counseling aspect because some parents are actually in denial.
Amen.
You know?
I think one of the reasons why, I'm going to get to Minister William Dorset, he's been on the floor for a little bit. One of the reasons why I think people don't want their children to be counseled is because they think it's a reflection of them. They think that if their child goes to counseling, they go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, that it's a reflection of their poor parenting. And so the embarrassment comes in again that, oh, my child has gone to see a psychiatrist, they think something is wrong with my child, henceforth something is wrong with me. And once parents are able to get over that mindset, then children can get better attention. So Minister William Dorset, your question? You're falling asleep on me?
Good night. I think Sister Ebenezer mentioned it early on in terms of parenting education. My two questions are going to kind of be broad brushed. Reasons why I'm saying that, because we would have cases where some persons may have been able to achieve a different result because of their past experience. And I'm speaking here about parenting education, and it being an epidemic not only here in Antigua but globally. Within the school systems, we have maths being taught, sciences, home education, and then we all have to live in the home environment where the only reference of knowledge we have of it is from our parents, who probably would have been having that same reference of knowledge from their grandparents. And when we would hear them talk about their grandparents, we hear them speaking about some donkey experience of them working hard in the ground and having to take a long journey drive with the produce back home, and that's the parenting experience. For the 21st century that we've been living in for some 20 years now. Because since I started high school, I heard about that. What are we doing in terms of getting something within the school system, within the social service network, and also within the church society for parenting education? We teach them everything else, we teach ourselves everything else, and then we leave it only to the Bible for parental guidance when the whole world system has changed. What we would just pull from the Bible and try to apply to a life experience, there needs to be padded with some other information, because the technology is before us. For example, in my school experience time, I didn't have much sexual issues to worry about because the exposure to it was minimal. Now, my children are on my phone, and I have to have a watchful eye when they're watching the cartoons because the pop-ups that may appear. So, there was no pop-ups in my time. How are we bringing the parenting, and I would want to hear from the social worker, is the governments or the churches doing something to have an educational system for persons? And it leads me to my next question, very short. We would have seen that children, persons are having children at a younger age, and I'm going to bracket it to be between 16 and 25. Would we categorize them as being young and immature for parenting? And should the church or social services employ a training program? One. Second question, is anyone that has not had a child inexperienced in parenting because they would not have had a child? Again, reasons why I would have said earlier on that my questions are broad brush, because there are some people that would have had parental experience because of whatever circumstances within their family. But I'm saying that to land back at the comment she made, where we are sometimes immature as human beings, even though we are older. And I may be an older person, but am I experienced in parenting? Do I still need to humble and get that training? Or do I think at 32 I can just do as my parents did in this 21st century?
So, William, your question is parenting classes / training program in church.
You need to get that, and within the social services.
And within the social services. So, Sister
Williams.
Williams.
With that coming up.
And we have 20 more minutes. We're going to try to wrap up at around 9:30. So let's be as concise as possible.
Okay. In terms of social services, yes, we do have parental workshops. We don't have it like ongoing. The next one is starting in September, and it will end in November. And that is going to be somewhere around South. The problem is, you put in all the work, you invite parents out, you go to the clinics, you go to the schools, you go to the churches. And then you prepare for 50 persons or 100 persons. 20 come out. The 20 that comes are not really the parent. Yes, they can gather some information, but they already have some form of knowledge. The one that you're targeting, the young ones, the teenagers and so on, they're not the persons that actually show up. And that is always the problem. The persons that you're targeting, that you're trying to reach, they actually don't show up. They don't come to these sessions. Okay?
Not to look into this, but let me just ask that comment you made. We then maybe at the hospital, in the environment for where we have the teenage moms coming in to capture them at that point. Even within the church system, we have shortfalls where we may have someone that may have had a child before marriage or whatever the case is. Are we saying here's where we need to give them the parental education and training?
Instead of just leaving it out in the community?
Well, not only in the community, but we're not attending to the way the problem is, because it's that inexperienced parent is who going to be having the problem.
Yes, and you can encourage them and you can invite them and so on, and they still just won't show up.
How is the information being disseminated? How do you get the information out?
Via the media, or you do community walkthroughs. So you actually go out in the community and invite people. You actually go to the clinics. You go to the churches. I know there are times that I would have to leave church on a Sunday, and you're popping into somebody's church just to pitch it, and then you're popping into another church just to pitch it, and you do all those things, and they still don't support. So that is a big issue, in that your target audience, the ones that you're catering for, they don't really show up.
Okay, so let me just quickly take a question from this side, and then we'll have a question from the western side. Go right ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michaela.
Speak into the mic.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michaela. I have a question. Excuse me if I pronounce your name wrong. Sister Evanicia.
Evanicia.
You made a slight mention to all of us being children. So this is for somebody that, I am a child. I have my parents, but I'm also just born again believer. So I'm a child of God. So the question is that it's not just biological, it's also spiritual. So what advice would you give towards persons that are basically spiritual parents to, those that are just recently starting?
One of the things that I learned to also appreciate is, while as your biological parents can give you up for adoption, your adopted parents cannot give you away. So mom and dad cannot get rid of me as a result. They can't be like, I no longer want her. However, as spiritual parents, and for which our pastor and his wife we refer to as our spiritual parents, here it is. It's a case whereby they take the time to actually teach us and train us. If we now recognizing that we don't have biological children, but then there are individuals amongst us for which you can see that they need a fatherly love or a motherly love, for which you exemplify as a female, for example, in your case, and you're able to, give them that sort of training, then it is bringing them together, letting, of course, the Word of God be your foundation. That is our instruction manual, and I shouldn't really apologize, but we got to keep coming back to the fact that our instruction comes from the Bible, and whatever direction or guidance that we are given to any child, it should be fundamental. It should be a case whereby it is in the Bible. So based on that, we flow with God, if I may put it that way, based on how He would want us to guide that child, how to direct that child. You see them going astray, you see them being a little naughty. Sweetheart, come here. Do you know that Jesus loves you? And because He loves you, it's a case whereby He actually wants what's best for you. You try to guide them now along that. They're being disobedient. Do you know that there's a blessing in being obedient? This is what the Word of God says. Trying to mold, fill in the gap that the biological parents, for example, are unable to fill or are not capable of doing because of their limited knowledge or skills or just their inability. Coming back to Brother Williams, if I may I appreciate the fact that we're looking at parenting. One of the things that I give hands off to Divine Academy of Excellence for is the fact that they take the time from the very early stages to start to train the children in Christian family life education. It is a case whereby it starts from the foundation. If we can raise up children that know how it is from very young to live according to the principles of God, whether they are in school, at home, at church, on the street, whatever it is, but educating them from that early foundation would allow them to be stronger citizens when they raise up, to be grown up. So can I just encourage you guys, if you all have younger children, get them involved in an educational system that teaches Christian family life education. Don't take it for granted. Now, another thing, as parents, don't think that you're too old to learn. It's our mindset that needs to change. We need to realize that God said there needs to be a renewing of the mind. Of old, and you alert to that, the challenges that we or the elderly may have had, it's not the same as this younger generation. But at the same time, correcting it doesn't change. You understand me? Now, you may not necessarily scold or use the rod as much as the parents did before, because you know how that felt as a child. But then here it is now, recognizing that, hey, I really don't know how to be a mother, because I never had that motherly figure around me. And now putting yourself out in a position or in a place whereby you're seeking the information to empower you, to make you a better parent. It's your responsibility. It's your mandate. And it's something that we need as parents to take seriously. Just don't take it for granted that, I gave birth to a child and that's it. No, you have a responsibility to train that child. And the ownership is on you now to actually desire and want to be better parents. Desire and want to, train up that child, in a better way than you yourself were raised up. To give that child an opportunity that you probably didn't have as a child. So please, when the education system is, being poured out there, whether it's through the social council, whether it's through the church, it's open out to you, take advantage of it. Take advantage of it, because no one really and truly knows it all. The ownership is for us, however, to be teachable, to actually have a learning appetite so that we can actually be better. If you're not learning, I beg to let you know, you're not growing.
Amen, amen. And Sister Evanesia, thank you so much for answering one of my questions, the foundation of a godly school environment as opposed to a non-faith-based school. So thank you for picking up Divine Academy of Excellence and the foundation that they are setting for our children. Let me take a question from down the western side.
Tamara. Good night, everyone.
Good night, good night.
Good night, Mom and Dad. First of all, I want to commend this program. I'm learning, and I wish this program was here maybe like 5-6 years ago, because it would have been help for me. And I'm standing here learning a whole lot. I said it to Mom. I'm emotional at times. I'm so sorry. I said it to Mom the other day that, when you don't know, you don't know. And this, I think we need more of this for the people who are coming up now.
Yes, yes.
We need a lot more of this. I commend Apostle. He stayed on the pulpit. He teaches how to pray, spiritual things, but we need physical things like this, how to deal with physical situations in the home and stuff like that. Because I know what I'm learning now, things would have been so different. Well, I want to direct my question to Minister McCannon. He said earlier that something about if the child know that they're going to get licks or whatever, then they wouldn't do it. I'll tell you, there's some children who knows you would say, don't do this, don't do that. And they know they're going to get licks for it, but they make up in their mind, you know what? I'm going to get licks, so I'm just going to do it and take my licks. There are children who does it. I'm not sure if anybody else can attest to that. They would make up in their mind that, okay, I'm going to get licks, so don't go down the road, don't go to that party. Okay, I'm going to get licks when I go home, so I'm just going to go to the party and go home and take my licks. There are children who do that. So there are things that we deal with sometimes, and you'll be like, oh, you don't you don't live the life, you don't do this, or you don't. Sometimes you do live and they see, but based on the peer pressure of now time, back then you would say, okay, your mom said don't do it, and trust me, it means don't do it, and you're not doing it. Now, the friend said, oh, my mommy let me do it. And they come, oh, mommy, why I can't do it? Because you're not supposed to do it, so be the case. But my friend can do it. Your friend is living in another home. Your friend mother set their rules. I set my rules. But yet the child stick to the friend and said, okay, well, she don't want me to do it, but I'm going to do it anyways. And then whatever the repercussion is, like us Christians, sometimes we know the wrong things, but yet we go out there and we do the wrong things, knowing the repercussion from God. And then we said, okay, you know what? I'm going to just do it and then just go to God and say, I'm sorry.
Is there any specific question that you would like to direct to anybody on the panel regarding that?
That's what I was saying. I would like him to, allude to, like expound on the fact that he said, like children, and how do parents...
You mean how to administer discipline?
Right.
I think we would have covered a little bit of that a little earlier when we spoke about the uniqueness of each child, and whereas one child might take a talking to, somebody else will need the rod. And so it's incumbent upon the parent to understand their child and to see what works. As Elder Hollis was saying, it's not all the time you can pick up a stick and beat, because that will lose its effect. As you said, the child who gets a beating, they already know they're going to get a beating. Right. So we have to be able to give age-appropriate types of discipline and to understand when there needs to be a talking to, when there needs to be going through tough love and seeing the repercussions, and when there needs to be the rod of correction. So I think we might have addressed your question a little bit. Does it answer your question, or would you like to speak with Minister McKinnon afterwards, because we're a little pressed for time? We have 5 minutes and we have a question here. Thank you so much.
All right, good evening
Go right
to
ahead.
everyone. I'm Faye. I have 3 questions, and the questions are being directed to Minister McKinnon. On the topic of sexuality and peer pressure, how do we teach or train our children in a world where we're being fed the lie that homosexuality is correct? How do we train and teach them to respond to the fact that it is not correct without coming across as being homophobic or judgmental? And then coming off of that, what if one argues that homosexuality is linked to biology? And as we're in the carnival season and we see carnival, or for most people see carnival as culture, how do we teach or train our children who have been also fed the lie that we as Christians can and should participate in carnival because it's part of our culture?
All right, in a nutshell, because we want to stay within the constraints of the time, everything really goes back to the initial stages of training, what we have taught the child, the life that we have lived with them, and the godly principles that we would have instilled inside of them. The whole thing is that at times we are too busy, we're on a different trend, we're on a different track, and so there's this disconnect between our children and us. And this has to do with age, because as we mentioned about age appropriate. And so there's a time as the child grows, becoming a teenager and so on, they tend to want to let go mommy's skirt hem and be more independent. And so the peer pressure comes in there. But the whole thing is to establish such a love and such a relationship with that child that the child wants to honor mom's and dad's requests because they know what they do will hurt their parents. It's a broad topic. There is so much that we haven't covered. I'm just going to cut it short, really, might give you the full answer. But I just want to jump in here to talk about the parenting classes. Even Tamara said that she have learned so much. We haven't even gone into how do you deal with a rebellious child, disobedient child that's lacking commitment, your child in the home that is lazy, ungrateful, unthankful. There's so much that we really couldn't even cover tonight, and questions that parents would really want answers for having teenage children that are rebellious and wanting to go their own way. And I just want to endorse that it's really important that we have, and we as the church set up these kind of seminars, so to speak, so that we can really help. Because some people had missed the timing for breaking in the children correctly, the godly principles and what have you. We have missed the boat, but all is not lost. And so how can we bring these back? How can we turn these around? And so all this cannot be said and done in one night. And we really want to be here for our family, and so that we can help each other to strive to make the relationship between ourselves and our children better, and that we can be better parents.
All right, thank you so much, Minister McKinnon, and thank you once again, Tamara, for that comment. We had, I'm gonna come to my question on the floor, but we just had Minister William Dorset just gave me a text that he just got from someone who's watching online, and it's one of the questions that I actually had as well. If the parents are not in alignment with disciplining, especially if one parent is a Christian and the other isn't, if the parents are not in alignment. The question actually says, what negative effects will be shown to the children if one parent disciplines a child and the other admonishes the parent in front of the children? And I think we can already assume what that answer will be, but I would like somebody from the panel to respond to that question.
Yeah, Apostle always says that anything that has two heads is a monster. And so in the family, basically, mom and dad basically should agree on the mode of discipline. And at times you might not always agree, but at no point in time should you let the child know or you disagree in front of the child. And so if the father is going to stand as one head, the mom is going to stand as another head, that is a monster there. And the child will be pulling sides. At one time going to mom, at the other time if mom is not agreeing, going to dad. And it's just totally chaos and confusion. I've seen it many times, and it only spoils the child. Right, so it's very, very important for the father and mother to agree. At times, mom may do something and dad don't agree. Dad have to go along with it. You understand? Communication can happen behind closed doors, and so they can work out their thing. But the child should not be a part of that discussion.
Agreed. We're going to take our final question, and then we're going to ask we're going to have Zach as our final question. We're going to take a question here, and then Brother Zach, let's have our first question here.
This is directed to Desiree, since you're in that field. And my question is, you mentioned counseling earlier. What is the result of a child being counseled, and then there's no confidentiality? Child now hear what he went into counseling about on the road, and then probably become rebellious of what is taking place. How do you expect that child to react? Because that can also drive the child, trust me, out of proportion. Because then he's saying society is not there, the church is not there, so who am I to resort to?
Okay, so you said the child spoke to a counselor and the child heard what was told to the counselor on the street. Is it a fact that it is a counselor who spoke about whatever? We have to ask that question too. And yes, sometimes some of them talk too much. They're not supposed to repeat. No, I have to be straight. They're not supposed to repeat things. I mean, you are put in a position where you have earned the trust of this child, okay? This child will tell you things that nobody else will know about or is supposed to know about. And then you hurt that child. It actually happened I'm speaking from personal experience because it actually happened to my son. And I took my son to a Christian counselor at that. And then the person's son met him on the road and said, you're still giving your mother trouble? And automatically, and said certain things. And automatically, he knew where it came from, that it came from the Christian counselor. And it totally broke him. And so he started like, Mommy, them church people.
Wow.
And you know, I had to talk about, yes, everybody's not the same and that sort of a thing. So I know it can break a child's spirit. But you have to inform that child, listen to me. Yes, what that person did was wrong, but all counselors are not the same. All counselors won't break your trust. Okay, you have to keep on reaffirming that. Now, you can't do anything about, you can even take the child to even confront the counselor. Or you as the parent can say, listen to me. My child came and told you so. And yet still you went and you told X, Y, Z. Make certain you have your facts straight, huh? Make certain the facts are straight. And then you can say, my child came and it has damaged my child. So it sets the counselor now to say, oh my. And then maybe offer an apology or something to the child. But you have to remedy that because when you break a child's trust, believe you me, it is hard to gain that trust back. Yes. Okay? So you can explain to the child, listen to me, all counselors are not the same. Yes, you have some of them that just talk too much and just break your confidentiality. I'm not supposed to do that. And they're just totally out of order, but all of them are not the same. There's some of them that you can actually trust. And you can handle it in that way. There are different ways that you can handle it. Okay?
All right,
Okay.
thank you,
I hope
Sister
I'm
Williams. And
satisfied.
Brother Zach, our final question for this evening.
Actually, it's not a question, it's just a contribution. First, I have to thank Sister Pastor Lou Andrews. When my daughter was here, she was 4 years old. When she go to, my last daughter, when she go to class, this testimony is that any one of you who have a child should send your child to this school. In America, you have to be 6 years old before you start the first grade. So she was 4 years old, and I said, okay, bring her here. When she go to school, every time they teach her, she will put her eyes like this. And Sister Andrews will call me, give her more time after school is over to teach her. And when she was leaving here to go to state, instead of allowing her to be sick before they allow her to be in the next class, they just allow her to start, even though she was 4 years old. She's 11 years now. She is faster in class more than any person in her class because of the foundation she had from this church, from the school here. Right? And again, about parents, like when every one of you are talking, I don't hear like a situation, most of you are married. We had to work and deal with your children as a husband and wife. Last week, I have a big daughters, 3 of them in university right now. One of them called last week, hey, daddy, I'm going to a party there because I don't like my children going on those things. I'm here because of circumstances. But every day, every minute, I'm in video call. Every morning, we set an altar. Before they go to school, we need to pray. Even though I'm here. I'll pray like I'm there while I'm here. Right? Then she called me and said, Dad, I don't go anything. That I want to go to birthday party because my supervisor organized it. I said, okay. Then I need to ask her, did you tell your mommy? He said, yes. I told my mommy. My mommy said, no, you have to ask your daddy. And when mommy said no, I make sure my wife knows it's my no.
Yes.
I don't come and because I'm the father, I say go. So we have to work together. The husband and wife should work together with each other. Even when I'm here, I control what happens there. Sometimes when they don't want to wash their plates, my wife will call me. They don't want to wash it. This girl don't want to wash her plate. I call her, what? Even though they hear my voice, they run and go and wash the plate by force. Even though I'm not there, but that's the authority God has given to us as men. You are not there, but your authority takes, permanent wherever it is.
Yes, yes.
Like Pastor said last time, that you tell maybe one of the children to do something, and maybe they were unable to, they were having reluctance. Immediately, pastor goes into the house. They run to do it by force. That's the authority of a man. But most of us here, or most of us in the Caribbean, women's authority have prominence over men. We forgot the authority. But then you as authority, you know how you exercise your authority. If you are telling your children something, it must be together, husband and wife. And more so, I don't encourage people, like, I won't allow my children to go for a counseling to unbeliever. I bring my children to the counseling in the church. My children cannot go to welfare because when I was there last week, my daughter called and said, "Oh, Daddy, because you're not here, you're not beating anybody." That's why my last daughter is something that doesn't respect the senior ones. So when I beat them on the foot. I said, "Hey, I make sure they don't have no mark." So, because of that, because when they go to school, they try to question them, ask them a sort of question, So you know how to discipline your children. And because when they remember that, they do what they don't want to do. So we must find a way to train our children and the way they will go. And when they grow up, they're not going to depart from it. My children are doing excellently good, even though as a father I'm supposed to be there. But then, because of the situation of things, I can't live anymore for my business. That's why most of the time I'm here. So let's work together as husband and wife to train our children. If you need counseling, go to the counseling in the church. I'm not gonna, though I have not gone in a situation where my children need a counseling. If eventually they need, I'm not coming to any social worker. I will go to the church and get the counseling because they teach you spiritually. They teach you how to direct your path, and also they just add it with prayer so that your children can be what God wanted to be. Hallelujah.
Thank you, Brother Zach, for your contribution. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who have contributed this evening by asking questions and by simply participating and giving your recommendations and your suggestions. And thank you once again to the panel. I'm going to ask each one of you to just say a few words to wrap up. Sister Makisa Cole.
In everything with parenting, remember to do it with love. Each child is different. Not everyone will cooperate with what you're saying. Not everyone will follow the rules, but at the end of the day, they were given to us by God, and we ought to love them. And adults also go through peer pressure because sometimes we're pressured by what other people may think about our children.
Yes.
But we are to love our children nevertheless. Keep praying for our children, those who have gone astray. They are ours. God gave them to us. Yes. And we have to love them back to the fold. Do not be pressured by what others are going to say or what others have said. Love our children.
Sister Desiree Williams, quickly.
Okay. I just want to encourage us to develop a close relationship with our Heavenly Father, okay? Because only when we do that, then we're able to pass on the principles of God to our children. So if we walk, the closer we walk with God, is the better able we will be as parents and to teach them in the way that they should go. Set priorities, set time, Bible study time, set prayer time with your children. You teach them the Word of God. It is very important. Don't allow them to learn things from the outside. You are their first level of socialization. You teach them the Word of God. So make time to pray with them and make time for Bible study. And of course, as you develop, so, and you'll pass it on to them. Okay? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Sister Evanesia Wilson.
Whatever we believe in is going to guide our conduct and our attitude. Our belief system determines how we behave, how we respond. I seek to encourage each and every one of us to have faith in God, believe in God, and let Him be the one that directs our path. You know, faith without works is dead. So if you believe in Him, ensure that you actually apply His principle, apply His word to your daily life and also to that of your family. God's word is light and it's life. It promises a good reward to those who actually takes heed. God bless you.
Elder Hollis Henry.
Be a good example. Let your children see good works, good speech, healthy conversation, good thoughts, great meditation. Your children will copy you, and they too will become great.
Amen. And Minister Whitfield McKinnon.
For the younger ones, work on that foundation. Get them in junior church, youth meeting, good educational background, like we have Divine Academy of Excellence. Get them that godly background, that nurturing. That is basically assisting you with your bringing them up right. And for those that have teenage children that are rebellious or not doing so well, do not give up on them. Love them. They give you a headache, they give you stress. Continue to love them, get close to them, touch them, hug them. Let them know, give them positive reinforcements. They can do it and they will make it. And continue to be there by their sides and encourage them daily.
All right, a big resounding round of applause for our panelists this evening. The topic was the challenges of godly parenting, and I absolutely enjoyed this evening. And I think that we need to get Elder McKinnon's list of the things that he wanted to discuss this evening, but in the interest of time, we weren't able to, and we can compile a long list of all the perspectives that we would have gotten this evening and flesh out parenting courses right here at church. So thank you so much for coming this evening. I'm going to call Apostle Andrews to close us off this evening.
Let me say thanks to the panel, and let me also hasten to say the church, ever since we know ourselves, have been involved in shaping not just spiritual life, but social life. And if you are a reader of our vision, you would have known that our desire to build a school is one of the ways of training and shaping young lives that some of us have taken for granted because we don't support our own. And the church for years have not just looked towards a spiritual perspective. We have created a credit union that is a social activity to help you to be financially sound, of which half of you are not in, and you don't pay back your debts. As I want people to be clear, the church is doing its job and trying its best to do its job. We build schools, we talk about building homes to the age, we interact with people on a social level and not just a spiritual level. I just want to borrow a few lines from Apostle Bonady in closing, and all the questions asked and the information given, everything is predicated on the Ten Commandments. Everything is foundational. Obey your parents in the Lord, children. And truth outlive lies. So even if you give them a good foundation, no matter what lies they hear, once truth is strong, and truth is stronger than lie, the truth will prevail. And so therefore the onus is on us as parents to follow the biblical guideline and to teach your children truth. Teach them honor at an early age. Teach them how to respect, first of all, their parents. And Apostle Bonady said these words. He says, a child should never be violent towards his or her parent. A child should not verbally abuse their parents. Children should not begin scandal on their parents. Doesn't matter what you think. And if you want a biblical example that we've been preaching, but maybe you're not getting it in that light, we preached about Noah's son. who saw the nakedness of his father. That is a social issue, and exposed it. And it's the same principle that governs children and parents. He should not have scandalized his father. He should have protected him. And he spoke about children should not ignore parents when they are addressing them. And children should not abandon or ignore their parents. And there are a number of other things he said. I'll put the points together. And we need to teach children not to react negatively to disciplinary measures of parents. And children are not to shame their parents. So let me say this quickly. I'm a 17-year-old. My brother is a weed smoker. He's listening to reggae songs. I'm in a Rasta community. I'm 17, 16, going on 17. I think I was younger than 17. And I grew up in a single home. And one day my friend invited me to smoke weed. And we went to the bushes, and I did it once. And the next day he invited me again. And when he lit the joint and handed it to me, I put it back to him and said, I don't want it. He said, why? I said, never in my life do I want to bring shame to my mother. I didn't even care about saying my father. Because I made a choice that doesn't matter who she is my mother, and my job is not to shame her. Now, I didn't have God. I wasn't saved. But I have enough common sense to understand how I should respond to my mother. I was honoring her, and in doing so, God was adding to my life. And the reason I said that is because I saw my brother in jail and what my sisters did. And I said, secondly, you know what? I would never have a child until I'm married, and I'll have one family. Now, this is the mindset of a person who doesn't know God, who is making a decision. So, as we listen tonight, I hope some of us get the message and see the direction that the church has been going and is still going. The mere fact that you are intertwining with society, you are educating people, and you're teaching them. Because as it is in the natural, and our sister asks a beautiful question, when you as a church member disobey your spiritual father and disrespect, and it brings shame or spread rumors, you are dishonoring him. And when you dishonor him, the sad thing is, some of you know people who do that, but you're still tight with them. That's the painful thing. You do not dishonor your spiritual parents, and you do not dishonor your physical parents. It is the same law. And we must not create a dichotomy and say, we're teaching spirit. Man is body, soul, and spirit. So whatever we preach to people, we are addressing all of mankind. Your emotional, your physical, your spiritual being. Because this church believes in holistic living. And so when we say, you must not be lazy, if a man, doesn't matter how much he preaches or teaches, if he cannot provide for his family, he's worse than an infidel. I don't even want to hear how anointed you are. And laziness is a sin. You know why it's a sin? Because God said 6 days you should work and 1 day you should rest. So it means that in the mind of God, work is extremely important. If he could give you 6 days to work and 1 day to rest, consider it. He's given you more days to work and 1 day to rest. People measure on the 1 day to rest. I ain't have time for that. But what about the 6 days when you're not working and you sit down lazy? Now, I'm not talking about somebody who is looking for a job. I'm talking about somebody who's just lazy. And that is a sin in the sight of God, because you are lazy, you are not productive, you are not bringing forth. I wish to say in closing that the Bible is filled with examples. We have a responsibility. We are now shaping and changing the lives of people. We interact, we meet with people every day. We're building a secondary school. My wife and I was up there, and I said that room is for counseling and prayer, not just prayer. I said this room is for counseling and prayer. So, a school sit with parents, a school sit with children, find out their needs. And again, let me hasten to say, the social workers, they're trying their best. We must not say that there is no help. There is help. And if people want help, they find help. Really and truly. And to me, the thing is, if the mountain can come to you, come to the mountain. And we must be able to see it that way. Program like these, half of the church comes out. Let's be fair. Half comes out. So half understand where we're going and the other half doesn't. When we set activities like Desiree said, so the social workers out there, they set activities, people who need it most don't show up. And you can't blame somebody for that. You can't blame society for that. If I need help, I'll find the place where I could get help. And let me say this in closing. Hollis was with me this week. I was sitting under the shed and I got a call. Somebody's in need of food. They have issues. They have nothing to eat. They have no money to register their daughter for school the next day. And the person called, what can the church do? I said, the church is busy spending its money, but I can do something. I said, come over and see me. The person comes, they share their story, their sympathy for them. Holly saw it. Here's the money. Go register your child to school. Take care and serve God. The person looks to me and said, I'll be coming to your church. I said, no, don't leave your church to come to my church because you are helped. That is our duty. And people are helped every day. And people don't have the slightest idea what the church is doing to shape lives and to help the community. I wish to commend the panel again. And we have other activities coming up, and we will continue to do this. Again, our Family Month is not new. It's new for some of you. We've been doing it for years. We've had lots of discussions, lots of issues we have addressed, and we will continue to address those issues as a church. And I would stand in defense of the church in front of anybody. We have always tried to be a balanced church. We have always tried to give you a balanced diet and not just spirit and God. We've tried to socialize. Some of you don't come out to social activities. You don't come out to sports. You know that Pastor could talk. He's around a long time. But we plan certain activities. Some of us refuse to be involved. And even our school, some of you you have a right to take your children where you want. But you must remember that you are responsible for bringing them up in the right place and the right environment. And if you want to put them under anybody that you don't know, then you are reckless and careless. And you are risking your children's future because either you say it's cheaper, but it's the church doesn't give you quality education. Who could question that? We top the 100 in the nation. We come in with top students. The reason why I'm talking like this is because we have opened an avenue to educate and to bring religious knowledge to children, and some of us refuse to support it. Amen. Amen. We refuse to support it. And the concept and mindset of our people is anything that we are doing seems not to be good for some people. And we go wrong not supporting our own. If we were Muslims, you would have been forced to attend a Muslim school. If we were Hindus, every Hindu would have sent their children to a Hindu school. it would have been compulsory. But because we are Christian and we are free, we are gambling with the lives of our children. And at the end of the day, we are going to answer for God for making some decisions that are not godly. My son passed the grammar school, my last one, Esteban did also. And we did not send him there because he passed for it. We sent him to a private school that we felt was better and will give him a better foundation. You have to make the choice that will shape the life and the future of your children. And that opportunity is given to us. And so we cannot say to God, we don't have it. We continue our family month. Tomorrow night, we ask all to come out. It's the opening of our Zuckerman Convention. I'm glad the sister asked the question about LGBTQ. Pastor Duncan, that book there, Zuckerman, that little book. This book is a book that everybody should have. I bought it. 2 of the men come. I don't think 5 men bought it. And every man should own this book. And he is the first person to point out the male sex organ, the sacred significance of the male sex organ, and why they were circumcised. And he shows us from the book that men are so important and why people are going the wrong way, because God made male and female. The feminists could argue, the humanists could argue, all of them could say we are using homophobic language to make us feel bad. The Bible is very firm and strong, and the scripture is clear. Zaka is a man with a sharp organ, male man. Nikiva is a woman. She is a receiver. The anus was not made to receive. It was not made. So men have gone contrary, and the world thinks if you talk about it, you're homophobic. Everybody come out tomorrow night. Apostle Vernon Duncan has been an advocate for the church. Trinidad we lost a case in Trinidad where a judge saw his own perspective and he voted against some homosexual rules and therefore gave Trinidadians the right to do what you want. Apostle Duncan just responded to him with a 20-page note, just responded to him. He has been for years one of the leading voices in addressing the LGBTQ issue. If you come tomorrow night and you understand the role of the man and the Zaka man and who you are as a man, you will believe he is so educated. Again, sessions like tomorrow night, you would see it as church. It's more than church. This is a highly intellectual man. This man taught me agriculture in school. This man wrote several books. And this man would show you why it is so wrong and contrary. Some people would storm tomorrow night and say it's only for men. It's not. He speaks of the common law relationship. That is not the ideal for God. And he speaks about the runaway phallus, the downfall of mighty men. And you want to come out, so when you hear as a parent what he is saying, even if your father is not home, you can go back and say, son, this is what your penis is for. I could use the word, it's safe. This is sacred. And I want to teach you early. Don't do like Hollis and tell the mother to do it. You show them in the mirror and say, this is what it's for. If we can do that early, if we can teach our male early that you are a Zaka man, you're born with a piercing organ, and you're Nikiva. Are you understanding what I'm saying? If we could inject that early in them, they don't have to go homosexual way. And if we could teach them how wrong it is and what it was made for and how the woman is a receiver created by God, Nikiva, then we would save our children from the gender wars and all of the nonsense that they're telling them. and all of the lie. And the reason why they're accepting the nonsense is because you ain't telling them nothing. You and I are not teaching them. We're not explaining to them. And that's why we talk about we are praying for them. Tomorrow night, he'll be here. You want to hear what he has to say. So I'm asking you to come on out and hear what he's saying. This book, I think I have a few copies. Zuckerman, every man should get it and read it. On Friday, we'll be going to the market square for a street meeting. Again, you can come out in your numbers. And on Saturday morning, we have the Zuckerman prayer breakfast, power breakfast, and then on, when is the black tie dinner? Monday, it's $75. All men come out. But I am telling you, I've traveled with them to Suriname. Their wives are here with them. They normally travel with their wives because this is not a man thing. This is a movement that could change the whole Caribbean and change the whole world. And this movement is saying the Zaka man, which simply means male man in full flight, is a love of God, competent to worship, a love of wife, a love of community, and a love of people. And bring out your sons and your daughters, because this will transform their lives. Let them come as we interact. He talks about masturbation, how it's wrong. Talk about blue movies, how it's wrong. And all of these issues, again, let me defend the church. The church is dealing with the issue. Just that you're not seeing it. And this is why we have sessions like these. Okay? I trust you could go online and you can get Apostle Bonnet, the new book, 10 Habits That Block Success. And it's actually the 10 Commandments he's talking about. And he highlights the message that God gives from the 10 Commandments. We look forward to Sunday morning. They would be here with us. Apostle Duncan wants to share a message. And he'll be sharing the message of God with us on Sunday morning. And then on Monday we meet for this family stuff. We beg your support for the rest of the family month. And in August, we will be going over to Barbuda. We want the boat full. We'll tell you how many people can go on the boat. Those of you who can take the sea ride, I understand. Some of you don't like the sea, I'll excuse you. Right? But for those who can take the sea, let's go to Barbuda. Let's go around the place. Let's fellowship. Let's see Abundant Life radio station. Let's see where Francois is about to build his new church. And let's tour the land and have fun. Okay. God bless you. It's been a good night. Hey, did you forget some? Your offering. How could you go without forgetting your offering? You have to give an offering. It's a good practice. Always bring something to the Lord. Amen? Amen. So, some of you have to dig deep. Some of you don't have to dig at all, because it's right on the surface. And some of you may not have. But let's pick up an offering unto the Lord. Don't forget, you need tickets. It's $75.